Hey everybody, welcome to our weekly Midas Letter RAW. I'm here with my co-host Ed Milewski, and we are coming to you live from the center of the Canadian cannabis universe, Toronto, Ontario today. It's Friday. Ed, how are you doing today?
Well, I can tell you this. April's almost over.
And April showers?
Well, how about CRA action?
CRA?
Yeah, well...
Canadian Revenue Agency?
Well, when do you file your tax return? End of April.
Yesterday?
I got big problems. Okay.
You got big problems.
Mine are serious.
Big tax problems indicate a big year.
Big ear. I got a big ear.
Okay. Anyways, so our one show, and boy, we have so much to pack into this show today.
I know. We may have to go to our every day.
Yeah, Ricky Gerwitz is going to read the news in just a second. Neilank Jha, CEO of Green Relief, joins me again, and we're also joined by Dr. Joanne Levy,
where's she based out of?
The doctor who prescribed me CBDs just this week. She's based out of, I don't know, area code 705 or 519. I don't actually know. We'll find that out when we talk.
So she's prescribing you CBDs, but you've been taking CBDs now for a year.
Yeah.
So she's saying take more?
No, she's renewed my prescription.
Oh, okay.
So now I'm officially a patient once again. But never mind. After that, Dan Bilzerian joins us here. Dan Bilzerian from Ignite Cannabis. Kind of a big deal. 23 million subscribers or followers on all of these social media platforms. Let's see, New Wave Holdings is going to be here. Chief Marketing Officer of Esports. Ed's going to do that interview.
Yeah,
that's going to be interesting.
Dan the man.
Jeff Ubersax joins us. He's the CEO of Demetrix, which is a biosynthetic company. And then let's see, Steve Misener and I are going to have a little chit-chat going on. And we'll have some charts and all the usual good stuff for you. But first, here's Ricky with the news.
Here are the headlines moving markets today. Aurora Cannabis Inc. and OnWave Corporation have entered into a royalty-bearing commercial license agreement. The deal provides Aurora with the exclusive rights to OnWave's patented radiant energy vacuum drying technology for the production of cannabis materials in the European Union, excluding Portugal. Aurora has also secured exclusive license options for both Australia and South America, excluding Peru. Additionally, Aurora has signed a non-exclusive sub-license to use the technology in Canada. To further cement the economic alignment between the companies, Aurora has made a $10 million strategic equity investment in OnWave. Khiron Life Sciences Corp announced yesterday that the company has entered into a non-binding letter of agreement to acquire 100% of the outstanding securities of Canapalife. Canapalife is a prominent hemp product company based in Italy with licenses for the cultivation, research, production, and marketing of hemp-based products. Canapalife operates a cultivation site in Padua, near Venice, Italy, conducting research in partnership with prominent universities, and has registered 3 CBD consumer brands, including Bloom CBD e-liquids, Canvax nutraceutical products, and Legal Seeds. These products are in market through established partnerships with pharmacies and independent retail chains across Italy. Green Thumb Industries Inc. announced it will open its second retail location in Florida, Rise Pinellas Park, on April 26. This marks the first cannabis retail store to open in Pinellas Park and GTII's 16th retail location in the country. Aphria Inc. announced yesterday that the previously announced takeover bid by Green Growth Brands has failed to meet the statutory minimum tender condition and has now expired and is terminated. The Green Organic Dutchman Holdings Ltd. announced that its wholly owned subsidiary, Hemp Poland, has received organic certification from the Polish Center for Accreditation. This organic certification is provided on authority from the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. Hemp Poland's facilities, production processes, and product offerings are now certified organic. MedMen Enterprises Inc. announced the opening of its Sorrento Valley store in San Diego, California. This is the second MedMen location in the San Diego area and the company's 11th operational MedMen location in California. Acreage Holdings Inc. announced the launch of its online store, Philoki.com. Launching today, the company's Oki brand of beverages and supplements infused with active hemp extract will be available directly to consumers located in the U.S. Organic Flower Investments Group announced the company has entered into a definitive agreement to acquire an 80% interest in the Edibles and Infusions Corporation. Edibles and Infusions will design and develop a 50,000 square foot manufacturing and product formulation facility located in Winnipeg, Manitoba. The facility will be operated by a roster of experienced chocolatiers and confectioners, as well as equipped with industry-leading manufacturing equipment capable of producing an assortment of both cannabinoid, terpene-infused products for medicinal, functional, and adult use. And that's your news for today. Green Relief is a Hamilton, Ontario-based producer of medical cannabis, using aquaponics to sustainably grow its products. Green Relief's mission is to help patients improve their quality of life while also advancing the science behind medical cannabis through research that raises the profile of the plant's many benefits.
Anyways, welcome back here. I'm joined now by Neilank Jha. He is the CEO of Green Relief. Neilank, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, James.
Now, I feel kind of like I'm really blowing my own horn when I'm blowing your horn here, because I've got, increasing amounts of capital going into your company. I'm buying your product like I'm basically a one-man promotional outlet for Green Relief. That being said, the reason I keep writing checks to this company and keep buying their product is because it's so damn good. And I say that having compared Green Relief Sunrise Oil, which if you go to their website right now, you can't buy it. You can buy Sunrise Light, has come back into stock as of yesterday, but I bet you it'll be out of stock by tomorrow because everybody loves this oil. And what can we say about it? You can't keep it on the shelves. Why is that?
Well, it's a very high quality CBD product. We're at 55% CBD, and it's due to the Green Relief labs that we have, where we have very advanced extraction techniques with the liquid chromatography, the simple pat distillation. We've invested a lot at Green Relief. We're a medical focused company on the quality of the product.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Green Relief is still private. When is it going to go public?
Well, James, right now what we're doing is we're building value for our current shareholders privately. I was only brought on as CEO 7 weeks ago. We've refocused the company to be purely medical. So we have Green Relief, the parent company, which does the cultivation, where we have our aquaponics facility in Hamilton. We just signed a lease and opened the doors to start construction of a retrofit of a 175,000 square foot facility to increase our production. And there we're going to be offering different offerings in the form of soil-based products as well to increase the biomass, because like you said, we're oversold with the aquaponics product all the time. We'll be very clear to our clientele that we have 3 offerings: premium aquaponics, organic grade soil, and regular grade soil is the plan. However, the quality of the product is really based on our Green Relief labs, which is what we discussed previously. So we have the parent company, and we have 3 subsidiaries, which is Green Relief Genetics, where we're starting to do experimental studies on what are the best genetic seeds, how do you increase the yield from each seed. So we have PhDs all over Green Relief that are doing studies on, is it UVA versus UVB? What type of lights do you use? What CO2 levels, what nutrients? And determining that with that type of genetic, should you use aeroponics, should you use aquaponics, should you use soil? So that's how you maximize the yield. And this is also a service that Green Relief Genetics will be providing to Green Relief, but also to other providers as well. And it's a subsidiary that will be profitable in and of itself. We also have Green Relief Labs, as we've discussed, and then our most advanced subsidiary, which is Greenleaf Innovations, where we conduct clinical trials, and we're already quite advanced with traumatic brain injury and looking at post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and anxiety as indications.
Okay, so when are you going to go public? No, when do you think that the company will seek a public listing?
Well, James,
just because the audience wants to know, okay, this is all great, very fine and good, but how can I at home play along? How do I participate?
well, James, to answer that question, what I would say is that my goal right now is that we're going to be cash flow positive in October, November of this year in our first facility. Our next facility at 175,000 square feet, we're going to have over $50 million in free cash flow, and we're very good at keeping our costs low. I'm very particular about overhead. So when you have that going on, and with the raise that we're currently doing, we've oversubscribed on our raise. So we had a plan to take a certain amount of equity and a certain amount of debt. We've oversubscribed on the equity. Now we're determining that we're going to take less debt. So ultimately what Greenleaf will be in the next 6 to 9 months will be a company that has no short-term or long-term debt, no accounts payable, spitting out a lot of free cash flow. In addition to that, the genetics, the labs, and the innovations producing medication. Now, if I were to ask you, does that sound like a good time potentially to consider some type of strategy for the investors? What would you say?
Well, I would always suggest that going public with a positive cash flow would be a good baseline place to start, over going public without that.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of determinants like that, and it's also based on market conditions. You know, for example, not saying Greenleaf in general, let's say that the U.S. election looks like it's going to move in a certain direction. We know that could influence as well an IPO too. So the board will have to look at several parameters and determine what is in the best interest of shareholders. We're continuing to produce value. And as we do this, it's always possible to spit out dividends to the shareholders, make sure they're well taken care of until we determine the ideal time to move forward. However, what I can tell you is all the moves that we're making right now, we're continuing to build tremendous value for shareholders. And that's why we oversubscribed. I mean, right now in the Canadian market, you know, I've attended meetings with investment banks, and when I mentioned to them 4 weeks ago I was going to raise capital for Greenleaf, they said, Doc, the market is saturated. There's no appetite to invest. It will be impossible for you to raise any type of money whatsoever. Who is your investment bank? And I made a joke and I said, I'm going to be the investment bank. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm going to go to our law firm and get a subscription agreement. I'm going to get a clearing broker. And I'm going to go sit in people's living rooms, family rooms, kitchen tables, my boardroom, their boardroom. And that's how we oversubscribe, James, because people believe in the purely medical vision of what we're doing here.
Wow.
You know, cultivation to me, it's like Gretzky. Gretzky said, I pass the puck where the player is going to be, not where they are now. And cultivation to me is sugar. Eventually, how do you make the cupcakes and the Coca-Cola? And that's what Greenleaf is doing. We may not be the Walmart where we have that volume and that size, but we're more of a boutique firm that is producing the medications.
Okay. And joining us now via Skype is Dr. Joanne Levy. She is on the road, and you're in Victoria, BC, aren't you, Dr. Levy?
I'm just on my way. I'm actually in Vancouver, just outside the airport to join you for a few moments before I jump my plane.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so the reason we're bringing in Dr. Levy to the conversation is as she is a doctor who is working to prescribe medical cannabis products to patients in Canada, and I am in fact Dr. Levy's patient, and she just renewed my prescription last week, and so I thought it would be great to have you on and talk about the idea that, you know, there's a wide range of products out there on the marketplace, and you are prescribing products. What is the biggest sort of remedy that you are seeing? What is the biggest sort of condition that you are prescribing products for among Canadian patients? Oh, and she's frozen. All right. We lost her. Damn it, that's Skype for you. Anyways, let me ask you, Neilank. Well, it's kind of not going to work right now. So what is it you're selling the most of your Sunrise CBD oil? Is that correct? Is that your biggest selling product?
Yes.
Okay. And I think I actually ordered another product today, which is it was called Low Tide, and it's high CBD, low THC, dried flower. And so does that mean you're now participating in the recreational market on some of the government mandated stores?
No, we're purely medical, James, so even that product is a medical product as well. We have not entered the recreational market. Our focus is purely to remain in the medical market. Right now, we have patient scripts that we cannot service because we don't have enough supply.
Mm-hmm. So are you withholding from taking new patients at this point?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So if you weren't, how many patients do you think you'd be seeing enrolling every month at this point?
Well, there's always an attrition rate where some patients leave and then we have an opening to take some new patients. However, in general, we've had to send a message across to the clinics to reduce the number of scripts that they send us. Distribution in this industry is quite interesting. The model's changing quite a bit now. As more and more physicians become educated about medical cannabis, they're directly writing scripts for their patients for cannabis. So the necessity for a specific clinic associated with cannabis is becoming maybe not as relevant as it once was. So, in my office as a CEO, I have people approaching me every day, Neilank, would you like to purchase our network of clinics? And I said, well, that's not our core business. Our core business is actually not even cultivation. Our core business is genetics, labs, innovations, and building intellectual property for medical conditions. Mm-hmm. So I anticipate that based on the way we're doing things, James, we have a lot of scientists that are joining us. We have doctors now from the professional sports leagues that are joining Green Relief Innovations on the medical advisory. We've brought on a chair of the medical advisory who's a very prominent individual in the major sports leagues. We have professional athletes that are calling us on a regular basis wanting to join as advisors. So I think what you're going to notice as we move forward is that the quality of our research, the clinical trials, the quality of the product that we have, as you already know. So genetics produces the strains that we require. The laboratory purifies the product to that grade, and innovations goes and runs the clinical trials and tests the IP. I think our distribution to patients is going to increase tremendously just based on our model of focusing on the medical side and the amount of investment we're making in that regard.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll leave it there for now and come back to you in due course. That's an awesome update, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Ed's going to be joining me back on the set right after this. Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you've more or less delivered on.
Here are the headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents,
and I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really...
Recreational cannabis is here.
It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits.
I don't know if, Ed, you happen to be watching the action on Body and Mind, BAMM, on the CSE today?
Well, yesterday, it opened at 335, and before you know it, it hit 255.
And
today, I think it hit 230 something.
Huh. So it's fallen right out of bed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's intriguing to me because this is emblematic of a very typical situation that catches up a lot of retail investors, and I just want to make a note of that. When you see a stock putting on that level of value in that short a time frame,
right,
that is an invitation for selling to begin with the same level of intensity as the buying took it that high.
Right.
Why? Because money is being made, value is being created on that price increase. That means that the higher it goes up, the more there is in terms of negative inertia, because people are going to want to sell it and take that money off the table and lock in the price, especially in the absence of meaningful fundamental news.
They said last week there's no reason, no news for this to go up.
Yeah.
And I looked at it at 260, and I thought to myself, my goodness, And then 2 days later, it was 360.
Oh my gosh. There you go.
Do you know the company?
Well, actually, I owned the company when it first went public.
Really?
And we waited around for stuff to get going, and it never did, so we sold it. And then when I saw it bolt up to 330, I, of course, did the obligatory kicking of self in ass. And you know, you win some, you lose some. Easy come, easy go.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, some of these things have moved. Khiron moved to 4 and change, and now it's about $1 lower. No news. Why did it go over to 4 and back? Why wouldn't it just, you know, settle in around 350? Call it an even. But that's the market, right? That's why we get involved. That's why people.
That's why people lose money. It's called an exercise in wealth transfer. What'd you say?
Like some of our friends would say, the market was created to take money away from stupid people.
Which is why we're so poor. Anyways, Dan Bilzerian had a thing or two to say about the evolution of cannabis and his brand, Ignite Cannabis. Dan, let's start with how'd you get into cannabis in the first place?
Initially, like, how did I start smoking cannabis or business-wise?
Both.
11 years old, golf course, tin can. Was the first time I got high.
11 years old.
So that was, yeah.
Are you California born and raised?
No, actually Tampa, Florida, and then I bounced around a lot, but I grew up in Tampa.
Okay. I see people making a big deal out of the fact that you're a trust fund kid. Does that piss you off?
No, not really. That actually helped me out a lot. That's what helped me, you know, really make a lot of money in poker, because the thing about poker is, like, people just don't want to play with people that can't lose a lot of money. And so when I got into poker, a lot of people were focusing on being the best poker player and, you know, making, you know, all the perfect moves. And for me, I knew that if I just got in with, like, super rich bad players, that I didn't have to be the best of the best. And it was okay to make some mistakes and, you know, give a little bit more action than you were supposed to. So for me, having people think that, you know, that was my background was, you know, really helpful. My trust didn't even kick in until I was 35, and I gave it away anyways. But
you gave it away?
Yeah.
All of it?
Yeah, to my brother.
Really? Yeah. Can I ask why?
You know, I just didn't really need it, and I'd made a ton of money. I mean, I was flexing on Instagram long before 35, so.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So you made your own money, didn't need the trust fund.
Yeah.
The cannabis brand Ignite is all about you, and it's sexy and it's cool and it's a huge brand.
Yeah.
How far do you think that's going to take you in the cannabis world, though? Like, I first came across your billboards mile high down in LA, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Who is this fucking?
Perfect. That's what we were going for.
Yeah.
That's
So great, you got the brand, but now
Yeah.
how are you going to backfill the brand with, like, big time sales now that you're a public company?
No, it's a good question. And you know, to back up a little bit, you know, I don't want the whole brand to be about me. I'm launching it, you know, I'm promoting it and whatever, but you know, we've got, you know, Cardi B's posting for us. You know, Jake Paul he did a post for free. We got, you know, Nikita Dragon. She's like one of the most famous trans women. You know, so we have, you know, a lot of different demographics that we're hitting, athletes and so on and so forth. So I really want the brand to be, you know, not just about me, which is why I didn't name it, you know, Bilzerian Buds or something, you know, like the rest of these guys doing it. And thankfully I didn't, because it's helping us out in Canada a lot because of the regulatory guidelines as far as, you know, if there's a celebrity name attached, they won't even allow you to sell. So
Right. So how focused are you on the actual everyday management of the brand and the company itself?
Pretty focused. I mean, this is my sole endeavor right now. Well, not my sole endeavor, but the one I'm putting the most effort into. And I got a, you know, great team. The team is more focused on the business piece of it. I mean, I do get involved, you know, a lot in the day-to-day stuff, but I try and, you know, do more high level. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming out. We're focusing less on just, you know, the state-to-state stuff, the THC side, and focusing more on things that we can get into all 50 states, foreign countries, and really, you know, making this more of a global thing. So that's my main focus. I want one proprietary device that does THC, CBD, and nic all in one, and nobody's really doing that. And so I kind of want to, attack the jewel market a little bit on the nic side, foreign and domestic. We've got, 200 grandfathered in flavors. So, when the regulatory guidelines on that kind of, become unclouded, we're going to, dive into that space as well. But the goal for me is to get people to stop smoking, people to switch, from nicotine to CBD, and then to have that one device when they do want to do THC and not have that stigma that's, normally attached with THC, because, somebody walks around with a 510 thread, the guy's smoking THC. Guy walks in with a jewel, he's smoking nic. So, to me, I kind of want to, and then we want to have a caffeine pod and, maybe just a, hookah flavor pod for the people that have that oral fixation that don't necessarily want to do nic or, some mind-altering substance. So.
Wow. What's your favorite strain, bud, dab right now?
Kind of depends on what I'm doing. For working out, I'd say Tangy Jack. For sex, more like cookies. For sleeping, probably like a heavier indica, like wedding cake or something like that. So.
How much are you going to be actually the ambassador of the brand? You say you don't want it to quite be about you, but people look at that Ignite and go, this guy's a sex-loving party animal. That's what I want to be. Therefore, I'm going to smoke and consume Ignite products. But you're how old now?
38.
38. How long can that go on, do you think?
The stem cells, who knows?
Blood change too, yeah.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Have you looked into that, the blood stuff?
Well, one of my business partners in my office, he's actually the guy who financed the German blood filtering machines.
It's a real thing. They've like combined old rats with young rats, shared blood supply. The older rats actually, went back age-wise. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on right now with medicine. Like I said, stem cells a big piece of it. So I think, you're going to see people live to be, 150 years old in your lifetime. But, that's not my goal, is to be 150 years old doing this bullshit. But as far as the brand goes, like I said, I'm launching it. I think, it's cool that people are, aspiring to do stuff that I'm doing. How long I'm going to be going, this hard, I don't know. Probably not forever, obviously. But it's, it's more than that, right? It's kind of, showing people that cannabis isn't just about, smoking pot and eating fucking, fruity pebbles and sitting on the couch. It's more, hey, we can smoke, we can work out, we can, surf, we can do fun stuff, we can travel the world, hang out with hot chicks. And, it's more of a, active lifestyle. And that's, really what I think cannabis needs to take away that stigma that it has of, you smoke pot and you're useless, you're lazy, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
what about other drugs like the hallucinogenics?
Big fan of mushrooms.
Big fan of mushrooms.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca.
I have not tried ayahuasca.
Peyote.
I did once. Yeah. I think it's more of like a medicine, honestly. Peyote's not it shouldn't be illegal. It's not a recreational drug. It's not something that you do to get fucked up with your friends. It's more of, kind of if you want to figure stuff out, you take peyote and, you kind of just, have the answers to your questions. I think it removes your ego a little bit.
Right.
And it's one of those things where, it's got a negative stigma, but, Native Americans have been using that for, thousands of years. San Pedro cactus, same thing. Like I said, I've only done it once, but I thought it was interesting. So.
You smoke dabs before you work out. I watched a video and you had a buddy over and you guys actually smoked this big pipe and then you work out and I'm like, what the fuck? Like who gets high to work out? So then I'm thinking about it and it's like I wanted to actually ask you like how does that improve or take away from the workout? Like for me, I don't understand how I could actually have that focus that I need to work out if I was too high.
Well, it kind of depends on what you're doing. For me, if I were to, smoke a fat dab and try and go do, a 2-hour run, that'd be pretty painful. But for working out, it gives me a better mind-muscle connection, so I get better pumps. It makes the gym more interesting. And I don't know. Like I said, I respond well to sativas, but if I were to try and do an indica and do that, it might not work out so good. Everybody's different, so your body's just going to, react to different cannabinoids different than mine, and so I think people really need to figure out like what works for them. And so for me, smoking a Tangy or smoking a Jack or lemon tree or whatever, those sort of, sativas or, even a sativa dominant hybrid really help me kind of like, focus. Like I said, I wouldn't do it on a cardio day. I've done it on heavy leg days, but it's more of, something that I think is really good for like arm days or chest days or smaller muscle groups. We really want to focus on that muscle and get, the maximum, contraction possible, so.
You bet. Ignite's famous for those mile-high billboards now everywhere we go. Canadians, companies aren't even allowed to advertise. How fucked are Canadians going to be when America tries to take over the Canadian market due to that discrepancy?
Well, when I come into the Canadian market, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Canadian companies, I think, but I'll be partnering with a Canadian company. So for me, I'm not trying to be, grower. I'm not trying to come up to Canada and start a big farm, become a cannabis grower. I want to partner with the best grower and put the best products to market. So that's really what a brand is about, is knowing that when you see that GOAT logo, when you see Ignite, that the product is going to be good. Do I want to set up a farm in every single state and every single country? No, but I want to partner with the absolute best grower in those places. So, the Canadian growers that are partnering with us, I think they're going to be super stoked, because we really have the only brand that can go into Canada, leased by Snoop, Khalifa Kush, Tyson Ranch, Willie's Reserve. Not that, those are really big brands, but those have names attached to them, celebrity endorsements, and they're not allowed. So Ignite is my company. I started it. It's nothing, it doesn't have my name attached to it. There's plenty of other people supporting it, and so we should be good.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that Ignite in Canada needs a Canadian growing partner? I mean, is that because you don't grow at all?
Well, I mean, you can't import to Canada, so would have to set up a whole grow in Canada and do that whole thing. And
you having those discussions now?
Just as far as partners?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a rollout plan.
Okay, that's pretty huge. All right, that's all the questions I have for you at this point. We'll keep in touch.
Cool, man.
Yeah, great to meet you.
Enjoying the show, everybody? Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. So, Dan Bilzerian likes to have sex, and he prefers to use, he says, I like this cannabis for sex. And now lots of people use different things to enhance sex ed. I've got 2 Cialis here and 1 giant bud. Which is going to be your preference as a sexual enhancement tool?
Well, I like to mix them up.
One of each, a little of both. First you eat one of these and you smoke one of these?
Well, if you smoke one of those, you're not going to be able to do anything. If you smoke that whole thing.
No, you wouldn't smoke the whole thing. I mean, unless you're a chronic.
Well, then how can you put up, because you do 2 pills, right?
Well,
you pop those babies,
I happen
and
to
stand at attention.
Well, I've never even tried these personally. I was given this little packet about 3 years ago, and just haven't.
You know what?
Haven't had to read
It still works. These things don't have a stale date. They only have a stale date.
Oh, really? So I could try them like right now. I'd have a stiffy. I'd knock over the table.
Boom! Table would be like this.
Whoa! Yeah. Anyways,
so that thing is hidden in a good spot because I've been looking for it now for months and I can't find it.
No, that's because we promised the guy who provided it to us that we weren't going to smoke it until we tested it, which we haven't done yet. So one last chance. Bud, Cialis, Bud, Cialis. Oh boy.
Okay. What's your preference?
What's my preference? My preference is, well, boy, I could really have some fun with that.
Okay.
This is a G-rated show, and let's see, what's my preference? My preference is to not disclose my preference on my show. How about that?
So you know what I've noticed lately, what's being played a lot are Canadian Club commercials, Canadian Club for a new drink, and what they're saying is you get tired of drinking beer at your favorite haunt, pub. So they're suggesting a shot of 1 or 2 ounces of Canadian Club with some lime and ginger ale. Like, I think what's happening is that the marijuana world is biting into the profits of liquor companies.
You think?
Alcohol. Well, I'm seeing a commercial. When was the last time you saw a commercial by a whiskey company directly trying to attack a beer company?
Well, I don't know. I don't really pay attention to commercials.
No,
that
you're
much.
just sitting in a bar drinking.
Exactly. I don't need any commercials.
Yeah.
They got me.
Okay.
They had me at hello. Up next, here's Ed speaking to the Chief Marketing Officer of esports investment company New Wave Holdings. Enjoying the show, everybody? Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram.
New Wave Holdings Corp is a privately held gaming and esports company founded in 2018 with offices in Toronto and Los Angeles. The company provides capital funds and support services to esports companies, organizations, teams, leagues, and esports technology. The company is currently in the process of completing an RTO and plans to list on the Canadian Stock Exchange.
Joining me now, Dan Mitre, CMO, New Wave Holdings. CMO stands for Chief Marketing Officer. You're a 16-year veteran of the space, correct?
Correct.
And you're based in Southern California, and that's sort of the epicenter of new sports. Fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say esports is a global affair.
And you said earlier you thought it's bigger in Europe and in Asia than it is in North America.
Absolutely, hands down. Yeah, I mean, you have Asia that's a good 20 years ahead of us. Plus, they've adopted esports back with the StarCraft scene.
Right.
They have massive teams and massive organizations and a great economy over there. Europe is just behind them. Europe has very much adopted that. There's an audience that loves to watch esports and play in esports, and now we're seeing it hit the North American front. We're still relatively in an incubative state.
Yeah.
But you have massive companies that see the potential in North America and are jumping on that. Same with New Wave Holdings.
So it's an industry I know it's growing rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
I keep getting newspaper clippings about women are now big into esports as a sort of a potential new market, but it's big. It's all over, and New Wave is a company. It's still private, but we're going to go public here shortly. We've identified a company that's now halted on the venture, and I guess all the regulatory work is being done, and eventually Trueclaim, which is TRM, is going to become New Wave Holdings.
Correct, yeah. So we have a definitive agreement that we're locking down, and we plan to go public here within the next several months.
And some money's been raised for New Wave.
Right.
And you're the same. So like, what are you doing? You're looking for investments? Is that the idea?
Yeah. So New Wave Holdings, if the tagline would be, we're an esports and gaming investment company.
Right.
And so what we're doing is we're taking great shell money and putting capital into companies that we believe is going to innovate the space. They're ethical, they're professional, but they also have something unique to them. So we placed 3 investment, and we have 1 acquisition underneath the belt. One is with Team Tidal.
Right.
They own Team Lazarus.
Right.
So this is an actual team, very diverse. And like you said, they have one of the first women's esports teams that are competing on a global level in games.
When these teams compete, are they competing in one area, or are they competing in different areas?
Multiple areas, yeah. So it's good for a company to be durably kind of diverse in the different games they play, because games come and go. And games have updates to them, and proficiencies in those games change.
Yeah.
So they play a wide swath of different games, and that's good for them.
Yeah. What was the famous game where, I can't remember, but it had to do with cars being stolen and...
Grand Theft Auto.
Was that a very big thing?
Huge, and it still is. So the team at Rockstar has done an incredible job at turning this game into an amazing live service in which they still turn monetization, MTX, in-game that makes a load of money to this day, and it creates awesome experiences for people to come back and keep playing and engaging in that. Now, Grand Theft Auto is not an esport game. It's not played competitively, but that's the kind of hook that you want in esports.
Right. And maybe this is a bit off topic, but like lots of times I see, they advertise these games and they say download for free. Mm-hmm. But is that just to get you in, and then if you want to get into different levels, you've got to then pay?
Okay, so from a consumer standpoint, many years ago you had games that say download for free, and then they had very aggressive paywalls. And in order to be better at the game, you had to buy a certain item.
Right.
That didn't go well, especially with the American populace. And so now you have games like Apex, which is developed out of California by a team called Respawn. and they release the game completely download for free.
Right.
But where they make money is all in cosmetics and microtransactions that only affect the way your player and your gun looks. You cannot pay to win. And that's important for esports. You can never pay to win because then you're just, it doesn't come down to skill.
Right. You can't buy yourself a victory.
No, yeah. And we don't want that in North America. We don't want it in Europe. And in some areas in Asia, that's fine. But I think what we're seeing from a global level, esports is all about skill. It will always be about skill, and you have to remove those buy-in variable factors.
So you've been, you told me you're a young man. You're mid-30s. You've been involved in this space for a decade and a half.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, 16 years.
So you must have seen a lot of transition in those years.
I have, yeah. I saw the transition from box product to digital. So we went from the traditional retail box to more of the digital downloads, and that's really helped a lot of publishers and developers get their game out there much easier, faster, and distribute globally. Then I saw the big transition from the influencer space. So it was all one-way marketing, you're marketing with on-site ads or physically based stuff.
Right.
To influencers, you got gamers who make a living on Twitch and YouTube, and those are now your new messaging vehicles because they have quality audiences. And so you have all these big transitions, and now esports is that next big one. You've seen it get big in Asia, you see it get big in Europe, now we're seeing it big in North America. It's a very complex ecosystem too. So you have all those influencers that have those awesome audiences, and now esports teams are saying, hey, we want you a part of our team because you have a built-in audience, you're also damn good at the game, come over here and play PUBG for us. And so you do have all these trends that are evolving still.
So different players on a team might be specialized in different sports.
Correct, yeah.
So they're not all playing the same sport on the same team?
No.
Okay.
In fact, some athletes play multiple games. So they diversify even their skill set. So some play PUBG, some play Call of Duty, some play Fortnite. And as an athlete, you want to make yourself as attractive as possible. Because what you're going to see is kind of the mentality of traditional sports. Teams are going to be trading players, and you're going to have different draft and rosters every single year.
Yeah.
And that's going to affect valuation of teams.
So as a new company in this space, there aren't many companies that are public in this space, I understand. This is early. So if you want to participate in the growing phenomenon of esports, New Wave Holdings could be a possible venue.
I think it's a very attractive venue. The reason being, whether you're an accredited investor, you're an angel, or you're an institution or some sort of hedge fund, there's nothing stopping you from going out and just investing in that single team. But if you don't know anything about esports, or say you're a little hesitant to placing an investment because you want to place the right investment, that's why you turn to a company like New Wave Holdings. I have 16 years of gaming experience. I know the trends. My teammates, Trumbull Fisher, our president, he's 14 years in the investment capital markets world. Our CEO, Tolga Onik, he's from the development app world. So we vet all of these investment opportunities and give you the best opportunity to see a return on that investment. So why not go to the guys who know the industry the best, instead of just kind of, maybe this is a risk.
Sure. Yeah. It looks like the time is right. A lot of people are fascinated. I mean, the parties, the online experience, et cetera. So we're lagging Asia, we're lagging Europe, but it's now coming onto its own here.
Yeah, and with the proliferation of obviously internet audiences, the walls of region-based lock and messaging that just stays within that region has been broken down. This is a global affair, and so we need to get North America up on that. And you have companies like Comcast who are investing in arenas like in Philadelphia. It's coming to North America, so you're going to see audiences go out, put their pants on to go to these events, partake, they're buying tickets, they're buying merchandise, they're latching onto personalities that they believe in. So like we saw in a lot of sports, I love Michael Jordan because of his personality and his skill at a game. There are new Michael Jordans coming up in the esports world.
Isn't there something big happening in May in Toronto too? Like some kind of And maybe I'm getting something mixed up, but I thought there was something big coming in.
There is. So one of our portfolio companies, EMG, Even Matchup Gaming, run by a dear colleague, Joe, and one of our advisors, Neil Duffy, they're running Toronto's biggest Super Smash Brothers Ultimate tournament. And it's going to be here in downtown Toronto at the Exhibition Place.
Right.
We have about 1,000 to 1,500 people coming out, competing, playing a Nintendo-branded game, and potentially walking away as the crown victor of Get On My Level.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So we're early days. We can look to see New Wave maybe trading in 3 weeks.
Or trading in several months.
Yeah. So I meant 3 months. 3 months. Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thanks for the update. Thanks for telling us about esports. I'm paying a lot more attention.
Ed, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Interesting news this week, Ed. Like lots of interesting news.
Yes. I guess if it wasn't news,
it would be old.
It couldn't be interesting.
Well, not necessarily, because when you first hear about something, even if it's old, it's interesting. If it interests you,
if it's new, but if it's old, it's olds.
Could be if there's more than one, but I don't think we refer to it that way.
Right.
Aurora Cannabis put $10 million into Enwave Corporation, and Enwave has this radiant energy vacuum drying technology, which might explain the horrible taste of cannabis lately in the shops. No,
is that right?
Well, it's interesting.
Are you starting a little bit of a rumor here?
No, I'm just saying that. It's a widely known fact that it's very difficult it's impossible, in fact, to get cannabis from any online source in Canada and receive a product that has the right moisture content at the right age to be considered premium in terms of the perfect window.
Like fancy brand.
Yeah, and among the reasons that cannabis, if you want a smooth, beautiful smoking cannabis with great sort of feeling on your throat, nice flavor, the key is you don't dry it. You don't do anything to accelerate drying, because that only adds to the harshness. So I'm curious to see how this is going to affect Aurora's cannabis. Now this is happening in Europe. This is for the Europe operation. So I'm really excited for Enwave, because that's a pretty serious vote of confidence, a $10 million cash injection. But I'm going to be very, very interested to see how that affects the quality of the cannabis.
Have you tried any cannabis that's been dried by a dryer?
Accelerated drying machine?
Yeah.
Well, you don't know, because they don't exactly advertise the fact on the package. So, all the cannabis you get from the cannabis store online from legal sources is without exception bone dry and like basically dust and powdery. It's like it's not connoisseur quality.
Bone dry seems very dry.
Yeah.
You almost want to have a glass of water with you.
Yeah. Meanwhile, if you were to look at, for example, I'm going to pull up Weed Maps. So weedmaps.com is the world's leading source of information about where to buy weed from legitimate sources as well as illegal sources. Now, I don't know how they get away with this, but they are, for example, here up on my NDI, here's some dispensaries. Some of them are legal, some of them are not legal. Then there's the mail order services. Now, here's the cool thing that we know about these is they are, without exception, illegal. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 online illegal cannabis delivery services on weedmaps.com. And you know these guys aren't sitting here selling weed if they're not doing a good business.
They've all got more than 4 stars.
Yeah, well, 4.7. So let's see here. I'm actually going to, whoops. I'm going to actually, let's see, Cannabis Cowboys, wide mail order. Let's see what's the fastest that you think we can buy weed from a illegal dispensary and have it delivered. Do you think we could get it delivered here?
Sure, there's a 5-star one right there, Toronto Top Shelf.
Toronto Top Shelf.
I'd go with the 5. I'd pay that a little, pay the extra.
Let's go. Yes, I'm 19. Okay, let's see what happens here. Open now. Oh, you got to you send a text to 289-780-5384. And here's their menu. Now, look at this. Okay, so...
Bubba Kush.
No, so their top one is Indica Afghan Quadruple A, $200 an ounce. 28 grams in an ounce. How much is that per gram?
28 divided by 200, $6. $6.
$6 a gram.
6 times 28, no, it's about 7.
Okay, so $7 a gram. But this is top shelf. So let's see, Critical OG, Daddy Death. Look at it. So like, there's a 5 Bubba Kush, $95 for a quarter ounce, mega sale. Let's see if I can buy that right now. Oh, okay. No, you have to. I see. They're not selling it online. They're merely providing the access to the company.
Right.
If you're having trouble getting through to us via text, please email us at torontotopshelf0@gmail.com. Should we go ahead and order some cannabis online? Yeah,
well,
I'm gonna.
Are you gonna do it?
Yeah, actually, but my phone's on the charger right now.
You're not using my phone.
Come on, Ed.
Oh yeah, sure.
Let's get some weed
Let's
in
order
here.
some weed on your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to order some weed on your phone?
Well, I don't want to get thrown in jail.
Why not?
What? I don't want to get thrown in jail?
You get laid all the time.
You been in jail for a while?
No, I've never been in jail.
How do you know you get laid in jail?
Well, that's just the rumor. I shouldn't say I've never been in jail. I've been tossed in the clink for drunk and disorderly.
Have you?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. I want to show you the Midas Letter official cannabis garden.
Yeah,
there it is.
Let's see.
There it is, up on the NDI. Oh, is it? Oh, that sucks. Okay, wait 1 sec. Let's go back here. Let's see what's going on with the old NDI. The NDI is not cooperating again. File, Firefox. There we go. Okay, let's see if I go full screen. Does it work? Yes. No. Didn't work? Okay, we'll go back to the other one. There's the Midas Letter official garden.
No question. We're looking pretty green there.
Yeah.
In fact, if those plants get any bigger, those 5 things down there below the screen are going to blend in. You won't be able to do anything. You won't be able to favorite, share, or donate any of that stuff because you won't be able to distinguish.
It'll all be covered with leaves. Well, actually, this weekend.
In fact, the leaves will be inside this office pretty soon.
Yeah. This weekend, we actually are going
smoke
to.
some?
No, there's no buds. This weekend is the weekend we turn it on.
Maybe it's a new strain you've developed. You've got a strain with no buds. That would be a trick.
That would be a trick, and it would be uninteresting. No, we.
Okay.
We.
All right.
We're going to flip those into bud this weekend, and so.
What do you mean you're going to flip them into bud?
So cannabis has a veg cycle and a bud cycle. You can veg cannabis at 18 hours per day on an indoor cycle ad infinitum. It will not go into bud until you lower the daily light exposure to 12 hours per day. That starts the bud cycle, and that, if it's more of an indica type of variety, starts the 8-week clock. If it's more of a cannabis variety, they tend to like 12 weeks for the bud to be fully developed.
So you can say, all right, you've grown enough. We want buds now.
Yeah.
That's what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Would that be, why don't we do that with fruit trees and say, you know what, we're tired of you growing
Well,
up.
we do.
Oh, we
but
do.
we do it through genetic modification. Cannabis just does that because it's it's an ally plant of the human
So
species.
you want this baby producing for you so you can start selling product outside your back door.
Yeah, that's right, because I'm not making money in the stock market, so I'm going to sell weed outside.
Oh, I heard
Anyways,
it all. I've heard it all.
Now you've heard it all. Let's take a look at the Midas Letter indexes. Can we see that on my NDI full screen? No?
Right.
Oh, okay, so how about we just don't do that?
We talked earlier about BAM, body and mind.
Yeah, going down.
Well,
Going down
It was
now.
240 a week ago. It hit 360, and now it's back to 245.
Yes.
Like, I mean, it's a full. That's a round turn.
That's a round trip.
You're not going one way. You're going there and back.
Up and down.
There and back.
Here we go.
I'm not just going one way.
Do-si-do. Jeff Ubersax is going to join me now for a conversation about biosynthetic company. But first, this little intro.
Okay.
Demetrix Inc. is a privately held biosynthesis company. The company uses genetics and computing-enabled deciphering technology to produce drugs and engineers strains to produce co-evolved and bio-inspired medicines and nutraceuticals. Demetrix was founded in 2015 and has raised over $11 million in seed funding led by Horizons Ventures.
I'm joined now by Jeff Ubersax. He's the CEO of Demetrix Inc. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate your time.
Sure, Jeff. Let's start with an overview. What is the business of Demetrix?
Sure. At Demetrix, our mission is to help the world benefit from nature's rarest ingredients. So we use a combination of advanced automation, biotechnology, and computing tools to produce rare natural ingredients via fermentation. And the intention of the company is to help pharmaceutical, consumer products, supplement, health and beauty companies access rare ingredients at a higher purity and higher consistency than they can get from any other source, from traditional methods. And our first products that we're planning on bringing to market are cannabinoids. And I think a really important thing to know about this space is bringing products to market through fermentation this way is hard. There are a lot of challenges. I think that our company is particularly well positioned to solve some of these. We've gotten a really fantastic seed round of about $11 million that has really allowed us to hire an exceptional team that has already had experience in this industry bringing 7 different yeast-derived products to market through scales of hundreds of metric tons. Mm-hmm. And then I think the third piece of that is really being able to build the incredible set of technology that's really required to do this well at scale and to bring these products to the market very quickly.
Very cool. So biosynthesizing cannabinoids through the fermentation process. Recently, we were both at the Biosynth conference put on by Paradigm Capital here in Toronto a couple of weeks ago, or last week rather. There's a whole bunch of disciplines that have to come into play in order to successfully do that at scale profitably. So how long is it going to take you, and where are you at in that entire process of merging all these disciplines under one thing to come up with this end product that's in the money?
Yep. No, that's a great question. I mean, I think that one of our advantages is we started about 18 months ago, and one of the founding principles is that to be successful at this, you really need to have good folks on the R&D side, the manufacturing side, commercial, and then also regulatory. And so we've got people that have experience in all those different areas. And said it at the conference, say it again now. It's super important. This is a big challenge. And having people that have done this before is a huge advantage because you will already know some of the problems that you'll encounter and avoid them from the get-go. So, I think that what that all adds up for us is that we've had a tremendous amount of velocity over the last 18 months to the point where we went from, basically had a lab in September of 2017 and then are today already beginning our own internal work that we need to do to make some of our first regulatory filings with folks like the FDA that we think is really required to bring these products to market.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how soon until you're actually putting out biosynths at a commercial scale?
So we've decided we're not going to disclose our specific roadmap, but I think the real question is, how likely is it that this sort of technology is going to be able to get to the same kind of cost competitiveness as agricultural sources? And I think that there's a pretty good history of these types of products from a handful of companies, particularly in the pharmaceutical flavors and fragrances space and human nutrition, in actually being able to get these types of products to scale and then selling them for, call it $400 a kilogram and up. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to really use this technology to be disruptive in the agricultural space.
The more I learn about biosynthetic cannabinoids, which I heard referred to as cellular agriculture, which I thought was an interesting term, the more I realized that we're still probably a few ways out from broad commercial adoption of this as an input into edibles, beverages, pharmaceutical, consumer packaged goods, etc. And in the same time frame that biosynthetic variants are progressing towards commercial realization, I got to think that in the agricultural space, they are also progressing towards the ability to essentially create through a different form of cellular agriculture, concentrates within the plant species and phenotypes and all of that through selective genetic engineering, et cetera. Do you think that there's any advantage in the costs and the timeline by pursuing a biosynthetic cellular agriculture approach as opposed to a plant-based approach?
Yeah, so first, I would say I agree that plants are also cellular agriculture. What we do, I would say, is more broadly just biotechnology or fermentation. There's hundreds and thousands of products that are already made today through biotechnology and fermentation, whether it's in vitamins or other types of nutrients that are going into foods and consumer product goods all the time. So I think that we like to just call it fermentation. And I also agree that there's a tremendous amount of really interesting new technology that's being applied both on the plant side as well as on kind of the microbe side that are going to bring the cost of goods down. And I think it's going to be an interesting time in the next couple of years to see how quickly they move on the plant side and the microbe side. Our personal view of that is that, especially for the extremely rare cannabinoids, that the microbes and fermentation are just going to be really much more cost effective than you could ever achieve on the plant. But I do think that overall there's going to be place for both plant and fermentation derived products in this space.
Mm-hmm. So is your intention then to list as a public company at some point in this process?
Well, we are venture backed, so everybody eventually wants to get to an exit. So the big ways we think about that are to either have an acquisition occur or going public. I think that we want to take our time on going public. There's a whole lot of upside and downside to being a public company, and for now, I think that given our focus on bringing cannabinoids to market through fermentation, we're at a really, I think, prime phase right now to stay private for a while.
Okay. What was your pre-money valuation on your $11 million round?
So we're not disclosing that right now, but I think that the really exciting part about that 11 million was that is enough money to really allow us to build a state-of-the-art biotechnology laboratory and fermentation lab. I think that as there are a lot of other companies getting into the space. We saw them talking last week at the Paradigm Conference, and it's important for any company entering this space to be well equipped and well suited to rapidly engineered yeast and other microbes to produce these new molecules. It's not an easy task, and I think there is still risk, but we feel like we're really well positioned to be successful here.
Okay, how far will that 11 million take you? How far before you have to go back to the trough for another raise?
So we're in the middle of a Series A right now, getting towards the end, and hope to have that. You'll hear from us soon in the next couple months about that closing. So we're really excited. Feel like we do need more capital to keep moving quickly, and are excited to have had a lot of success so far in talking to folks that are interested in investing. So
sure.
It's been really,
well, that's why I'm asking, because we're actively investing, deploying capital into biosynthetic companies in the cannabis space. So for my audience, who are all investors, that's why I ask these investor-oriented questions. How much of the company did you give up for your $11 million?
So again, that's something that I think we're not disclosing at this point.
Damn.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, well, great. Well then, so I guess we'll just keep an eye on the company, and we'll wish you the best of luck. It was great to have you on the show, and we'll have you back soon. Anytime you have developments, please give us a call, and we'll get you on and hear about them.
Certainly will.
All right,
Thanks a lot.
thanks very much, Jeff. Bye for now.
All right.
If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment. There you have it. There's the another biosynth play. Biosynths, we were at a conference last week. There was 10 companies present. I think 7 or 8 presented. We met with one of the companies today, and we're going to go to their laboratory and shoot next week. And this is a biosynthetic company that is growing with algae as its bioreactor of choice. So that's going to be interesting. Steve Misener came in this week to talk to me about Canopy Growth and the Acreage deal, and here's what Stevie had to say. It was really interesting. If you like the show, you'll love our website. Visit us at www.midasletter.com for interviews with key CEOs, cannabis news, and to subscribe to our newsletter. I'm joined now by Steve Misener, CFA, one of Canada's most recognized figures in the institutional investment space. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, James. My pleasure.
Steve, we had some interesting comments in a conversation about the transaction whereby Canopy Growth is planning to acquire Acreage Holdings, and we more or less arrived at a similar conclusion, which is that at the end of the day, this is a win-win for both sides. My preference was to point out that this is why that I don't like to be involved with companies that have super voting structures, because I can guarantee you that Kevin Murphy, who exercised 83% of the votes, did not buy his shares at $25 a share like the IPO round holders. So how do you portray that as a win for shareholders of Acreage?
Well, Acreage needed to do something because the stock was down from the IPO price. I believe it was $25 last November. And given the liquidity issues, the weaker liquidity in the stock, and the fact that it was trading below its IPO price, it was going to be a less than favorable opportunity for them to raise more equity money at a down round, so to speak. So they needed to do something. They're building this massive footprint in the U.S. I believe at the time of their IPO in November, they were, I think, in 12 to 14 states. Now they're suggesting 20, where they have either operations or pending operations. They've always wanted to be a one-stop shopping, massive footprint in the U.S. That costs cash, lots of cash. I think they raised somewhere in the 320 million U.S. at the time of the IPO. But when you have 20 little mouths in 20 states, requiring capital, that's a fairly heavy burn.
Yeah. Acreage hasn't filed a financial statement since going public, and so we really don't know what their burn rate is at this point, do we?
We don't know. I'm not sure when it's due, but it's got to be imminent. Perhaps at the end of April it's due. Because of the IPO in November, I think they altered their year end perhaps to December. So that's pending for certain. But we know in these businesses on a generic basis and from observing the businesses that the build out costs money. And when you're going in a multi-state basis and you're making acquisitions and you're funding build outs of cultivation and extraction facilities, we know that costs money.
Sure. The shares of Acreage have sold off somewhat dramatically. Stock's down 5% since they announced the deal, which suggests that shareholders are not uniformly pleased with the outcome at this point. Now, I'm trying to juxtapose that, and this is where I agree with you in that it is a win for the shareholders, is that the total dollar per share premium of the transaction when it is executed, meaning when cannabis goes federally legal in the United States, the full dollar amount is $36 a share, which represents a pretty serious premium to the VWAP closing price of, I think, what was it, $22.50 or something? So then, if the U.S. were to legalize cannabis federally today, that would imply that Acreage shares are worth $36 to $38 a share. Clearly, the existing market is not pricing that premium in. Why is that?
Well, a number of factors. I mean, the issue of legalization in the U.S. is still a wild card for sure, because it has to go through Congress and Senate and other votes like that.
Couldn't Donald Trump just do it by executive decision?
I don't know, perhaps, but I'm sure it would get some blowback in Congress. But that said, when typically any kind of arrangement is made between public companies, it's usually a much shorter timeline. This is an unknown timeline, regardless of prognostications in certain politicians saying that they want to go ahead with it. There's nothing concrete in terms of a timeline or legislatively on the table, and it's a complicated, very, very complicated issue, as the states have more rights individually than they do in Canada as provinces. So it'll be a complex issue, and I think that unknown is what's offering in part the discount between what the potential is for Acreage shares when the deal gets consummated. In the meantime, arbitrageurs are trying to figure out what the appropriate discount should be between that future unknown down the road and today's price. And given that this is a kind of a spike in the shares even from the time of the announcement, and liquidity was difficult previously on Acreage shares for Acreage shareholders, there's obviously been some sellers that taking an opportunity to sell into this arbitrage strength.
Sure. What kind of premium do you think should be priced into the shares of Acreage, considering that Acreage now has essentially Canopy as a banker, and Canopy by extension has Constellation as a banker, who, so we've got Canopy probably still with $4 billion on the balance sheet. You've got Constellation Brands, who's got arguably an unlimited access to capital. Shouldn't that count for something in the valuation of Acreage shares, even in the current unknown consummation of this transaction?
Well, it certainly assists, and I wouldn't use the term premium. What I would use is the discount from the maybe ultimate resolution or ultimate takeover. It's a discount rather than a premium. Yes, the fact that Acreage clearly, I think, needed money. They haven't issued a financial statement since the IPO, but they're obviously building a huge footprint, so they need money. The fact that the banking pass-through from, as you said, from Constellation to Canopy right through to Acreage is huge for Acreage, and they needed to get access to capital, and we know that getting banking and bank loans is still difficult in the U.S. in this particular space. So that's the real plus for Acreage, and for Acreage shareholders is this unknown discount to the deal price, but the arbitrage between the shares as people try to figure out what the deal risk is and how long this might take. So it's provided liquidity that the shareholders needed and the company needed in trading the stock, and it's provided critical capital to Acreage, and it looks like a big plus for Canopy as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So combined entity basically is by far the largest footprint in the cannabis industry in North America.
Yeah, and perhaps, well, globally, really.
Right.
I mean, if you're a international fund manager and you want to own one cannabis stock and you're a really big fund manager, Canopy already was the go-to stock on the New York Stock Exchange, but as they have stated in many reviews of this deal, they didn't have the footprint in the US. And this is kind of on an as if and when come down the road basis that they will have this footprint, so people can say there's yet another reason to buy Canopy today as a kind of one-stop or the biggest player in the space, because they'll have front row seats when it does go legal in the States, which inevitably it probably will, as many commentators feel, and they'll have locked up this deal. Meanwhile, Acreage has the capital that's required pass through with this, banking opportunity, because that's really what it is. But Canopy doesn't own any equity in Acreage, which is critical to their current status.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, Steve, great contribution as usual. We'll leave it there and come back to you soon. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, James.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at midasletter.com. One of the audience members, Ed, says, "What happened to Ed's melon?"
Which I've got 3. Which one? No, I was coming out of an establishment the other day and totally sober, maybe a little rushed, and I was rolling out some suitcases, and lo and behold, there was a step, and the step made me sort of lose my balance, and I kept going down the steps to the side because that's where the suitcases, the wheels were pointing, and lo and behold, there's a cement pillar preventing me from going any further.
So why didn't you drop the bags and stop?
You know what? That's the question I've been asking myself daily. Why wouldn't I just let go? No, I couldn't let go. No, I had to hold on to these babies because I was afraid they may run into the pillar.
Wow.
So that's what I did, and I'll tell you, it was just a superficial glance.
Yeah.
There was no major, like smack like you get.
Well, obviously you're here today. No concussion.
No. Well, you were wondering. You were saying, "Are you okay?" You've asked me 3 times now.
Well, it's funny, but I've run into 3 people who have head wounds lately. And,
head wounds.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, like, what is it? The season for head wounds? It starts raining and people start showing up.
You know
with
what it is,
scrapes on
people.
their noggins.
You know, just about everybody now is on the wagon. Did you know that?
I'm not. I drank 6
just about
Negronis last night.
Like everybody, nobody
Tonight I'm
drinks
gonna drink
anymore.
some wine.
I predict that the world of alcohol is a world that's slowly disappearing. I'm just saying that.
Party pooper.
No, look. We've got edibles now. We've got pick your whatever.
You saying that instead of good times we're going to have instead of good times we're going to have high times?
Yep.
Well, funny that because the CEO of High Times, Adam Levine, stopped by this week to have a chat.
We set that.
Joined now by Adam Levine. He's the executive chairman of High Times Magazine, the best-known brand in cannabis in the world. Adam, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. I have been a reader of High Times on and off over the entire 44-year history. I'm 55. I started reading it when I was actually 9 years old.
Amazing.
Yes.
I love it.
I learned how to grow cannabis from Ed Rosenthal, who was once one of the most prolific writers of
Not
High
only
Times.
one of the most, I mean, he's still prolific as it gets.
Yeah,
he's probably one of
he
our
is.
biggest names.
Actually, I went and met him at his house, and we shot an interview with him there back in the summer. That's going.
Did he share some of his stuff with you?
He didn't, because I was with all this film crew and everything. It wasn't really copacetic. Yeah. Okay, so you just led a group that has taken over High Times from previous management.
So I did that 2 years ago today. Since then, we've made 7 acquisitions in the space. We've bought Culture, we bought Dope Magazine and Media Properties.
Wow.
In addition, Green Rush Daily. We just announced a definitive agreement to buy Cannabis, the largest trade conference in cannabis trade conference in Europe.
Really?
And announced recently that we signed definitives to buy The Big Show. Beyond that, it's been a busy 2 years, but we've done, I don't know how familiar you are with a Reg A IPO. It's like a mini IPO.
Oh, Reg A Plus.
Reg A Plus.
Oh, I know Reg A Plus very well. An offshoot from the Jobs Act that gave companies the ability to raise up to $50 million without filing a prospectus.
So do you know how large until us,
Joined now by Adam Levine. He's the executive chairman of High Times Magazine, the best-known brand in...
I don't know how familiar you are with a Reg A IPO. It's like a mini IPO.
Oh, Reg A Plus.
Reg A Plus.
Oh, I know Reg A Plus very well. An offshoot from the Jobs Act that gave companies the ability to raise up to $50 million without filing a prospectus.
So do you know how large until us, do you know how many people, the largest Reg A to date as far as number of subscribers was?
I have no idea.
5,500 with Elio Motors, which was a huge success at the time.
Yeah, actually I had them on the show like 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, a year ago.
We're about 20+ thousand today.
Really?
So, shareholders.
Wow.
So we'll list in the near future.
Wow, fantastic.
And we're well on our raise to have a large number of retail shareholders. As you know how important it is in cannabis to have that retail shareholder support.
Yeah, you bet.
And TGOD was bragging 7,500 retail shareholders when they went public, and we're well over 20,000.
Well, that's fantastic.
So it's been an exciting time, and I think it really shows the gravitas of the brand.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so now just because we're investor focused. An investor wants to know what is the economics, how does the revenue model work for the company in a publishing space in cannabis?
So we have a few different revenue models today. Licensing is the natural fit. We're the most well-known brand in cannabis. So, I can imagine today, we haven't touched the plant today. We've decided not to go there as a company, is looking at a U.S. listing.
Sure.
But if we were to look to trade in Canada, we'd be a dispensary today. But you look at smoke shops, you see High Times products all through smoke shops distributed worldwide. Merchandise, obviously. Beyond that, we're a concert event and event promoter. So we have the Cannabis Cup,
right?
Stretching back 30 years to its roots in Amsterdam.
Sure.
And today we'll do more than 20 of those throughout the world.
Right.
Anywhere, Amsterdam to Puerto Rico to Alaska last year.
Sure. Who is the winningest provider of genetics in the Cannabis Cup history?
You're going to get me in trouble here. No, I mean there's a lot. We've had a lot of successful strains.
Oh, okay, I was trying to get you to say DNA Genetics just because I know those guys a little bit.
And I'm partial to them too. Dan and Aaron are great guys, and big supporters. I mean, I think one of my first connections with Dan at the Cup last year, he goes, listen, High Times is what brought us on the map.
Right.
And they're doing some exciting things right now as well.
Yes, they are. So events, revenues.
Events, licensing, events, obviously our publishing business.
Yeah.
And we have the largest audience of Canna consumers on web and social today.
Sure.
So we'll do the series of roll-ups that we bought, Culture and Dope Media. We've got more than 22 million eyeballs from a Canna consumer, which you look 3-4 years ago, no one cared about that stoner.
Yeah.
No one,
well,
today
I've actually been arrested for possession of a High Times magazine in the state of Georgia when I was, I think, 21 years old.
Just of the magazine.
I had the magazine and I had a book on mushrooms. And those both got
just
me
for the
charged.
books. Anyway.
Well, anyways, but that was you used to have to hide High Times magazine even from my parents. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course.
So I mean it's so amazing. I mean, we live in a really fantastic time for a cannabis consumer. To have High Times magazine now becoming a publicly traded company, I mean, it just warms the cockles of my heart.
But we're much more than a media company today. We're much more than just the magazine that we're known for.
Yeah. And
we're buying B2B trade shows and really expanding worldwide. We recently just brought in a new CEO, Craig Fox, who is known for overseeing Dick Clark Productions and running the Elvis Presley Library. And we've brought the guns.
Yeah. So is this kind of like analogous to like say Vice Media? To like Fox Business?
I think it's much different than that because those are all media companies.
Right.
We're a brand.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, we'll have a media division. Yes, we have. But you look at like Fish and Stream, the magazine. Yep. They have 400 retail stores.
Right.
So my background's buying media companies. I've bought some, Girls Gone Wild, Penthouse Media Group.
Wow.
Probably could go on Bebo from AOL.
Sure.
And it's repositioning assets.
Right.
And finding the right purpose and the best overall value for them.
Yeah.
And to me, you look at High Times in the brand, and we haven't even touched the plant, as I said, but you look at branded products, you look at that we're already doing, but you look, stores, I think it's a natural transgression.
Sure.
And, there's a lot of exciting things. And,
Okay, so in a Reg A Plus offering, that gives like the average Joe the ability to participate in a financing just like alongside institutions.
Absolutely. Gives the allocation to everyone.
So how long is this financing open for?
So it's been open for a little over 6 months today. We've kept it open, waiting for the NASDAQ markets. I think today with the Green Lane IPO.
Right.
Being the first, cannabis ancillary IPO.
Right.
To be the U.S. traded markets. We're looking at that, and I think that's really a big win for the industry and a big win for us. And
wow.
We've had a lot of interest and a lot of people looking and recognizing the value of the brand far beyond just a media and events company.
No kidding. All right, Adam, well, we're going to leave it there for now. How soon do the company becomes public?
We'll see. I think, the next, we're looking this quarter.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to have you back as often as we can because I love High Times. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com. Do you ever read High Times, Ed?
A magazine ahead of its times.
Ahead of its time.
Well, you know what? You get my joke. I don't even know their jokes.
You know that we used to call people who used to be potheads were called heads.
Yes.
That guy's a real head. That means he smokes a lot of pot.
Head Milewski.
Head Milewski. Good point. You know, one of the most famous writers for in the history of High Times magazine is Ed Rosenthal, as I was saying in the interview, and Head Rosenthal is actually writing for the magazine again. Adam tells us, and that's going to be something incredible. People are making fun of their efforts to have an IPO. I guess they've been doing some advertising in the States. Obviously, we don't see it up here in Canada, but if anybody's got an example of that ad, we'd love to check it out. But they're doing a Reg A Plus offering. Reg A Plus gives them the ability...
like Reggae power?
Red wine. Yeah, it means that anybody can go buy the stock. Anybody can go play the private placement.
Really? How much are they raising?
Well, up to 50 million. Nobody's going to say, you know what? We got 45 million. You want to put in 5 more? We're going to pass. We'll stop at 45. They Reg A Plus as a Tier 1 investment gets them the ability to raise up to $50 million. So I'm pretty sure he's probably not going to go public until the interest in that Reg A offering is dried up, and then they'll probably pull the trigger. That's what I would think. Now, I think they've got to file, you've got the filing process before they go public, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. I think it's going to be a thing of beauty. Our gathered audience here has really contracted quite a bit since we've gone down to 1 day per week. People are wondering why it's 1 day per week, and I can tell you that it's because we have several big projects in the mixer right now, and we can't move them all forward doing a show every single day. So we're just doing this for the summer, and then we're going to be doing, we're launching our studios in 9 additional cities around the world, and theoretically then by September we'll be back to doing our show every day.
Yeah.
Maybe. Now,
look, and if the resource market goes ballistic, which you just might, because I'm starting to think it won't happen.
What do you mean, gets hit by a ballistic missile? Actually, somebody made a comment that Ask Ed, they're worried about your head.
Yeah.
Head. And so they're talking about, they said, ask Ed if he's still buying copper. If he says yes, he's okay.
Well, I actually bought some Crown Mining today, which
So the answer is yes.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm tired of talking about it. I've been wrong.
You tired of talking about your what? What the hell has happened? You must. What did you hit your head or something?
I hit my head, and all of a sudden I thought, what? Buying copper? I must be out of my mind. Truth be known, I think it's got to happen eventually, but I'm a little early, obviously.
You're ahead of your time once again.
But when it's time, when the train leaves the station, not everybody's going to be aboard, and that will cause a spike.
Okay. It's the last moment of the first show of the last show of the week. So let me ask you this. What's your top performing stock in the cannabis space next week?
Next week?
Yeah. For the week. We'll come back and revisit this on Friday.
You know what? That's a nice little game of chance here.
There we go.
Okay, I'm going to say I think that you know what? I'm going to throw a wild one out there.
Okay.
High Hampton.
High Hampton.
Yep.
HC on the CSE. Why would what's going to make High Hampton jump?
One question. One ping only.
Oh,
one ping only.
Okay. My pick is going to be...
Didn't ask you what your pick was. Okay, tell me. What is it?
My pick is going to be either Khiron, which is a client, yes. Because they've dropped quite a bit this week, so I think there's a bounce. That's all I'm saying. I'm looking at the trade.
Okay.
For no other reason than that. And I also like JWC.
JWCA.
Yeah, JWCA is the symbol.
You don't want to just buy
JWC
3/4 of the company.
Well,
for sure.
JWC,
Okay.
James E.
Hey, let's
Wagner
have a little, maybe next week if one of us is right.
Yeah. Then one has to buy the drinks.
Maybe hand over that bud.
Okay, actually, that's doable because we're going to test this bud next week, so it's
Okay.
freely smokable.
And haven't had an ounce of booze in the month of April.
What about an ounce of weed?
I've had an ounce of weed.
You smoking a lot of weed these days?
You know what? Trying different ways of ingesting.
Spit it out. How long are you on the wagon for now?
26 day.
And how long are you going to stay on the wagon?
That question nobody knows. And
So
God
go
does
for a drink?
God and I know.
It's Friday.
God's not telling.
Ready to go? Let's go have a drink.
No.
And there's our show for the week. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe. Email us, midasletter@midasletter.com. If you have any show idea, requests, whatever, we will happily look at them. Have a great weekend.